Google Docs says it's updating.
Perfect timing for that. Yep, sure does. It's because you're trying to use it as Stage Manager. I don't know what you're thinking.
I gotta manage.
You know those Google apps don't work on Stage Manager.
They don't.
I decided though that if these iPads that Apple's about to announce, that they've already announced by the time this episode airs, if they support Mac OS, I would buy a new iPad.
It's not gonna happen. I saw somebody on Twitter, like somebody posted something that said, "What feature would the new iPads need to have for you to buy a new iPad?" And the first person was like, "Needs to be able to run Mac OS." I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's never gonna happen.
I'm not saying it needs to be able to, but I'm saying if it did, I'd buy one.
So you're not going to buy one. It's basically what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that is one of multiple features that would make me.
Oh, okay. Got it. There's just no way. I could see a situation where maybe they expand some of the capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it has better file system and maybe it has better window management. But like running actual Mac OS, no way.
I honestly think what's stopping them is less what you could argue that it's because, we want people to pay the extra money for a Mac if they want to run Mac apps. And you could argue it's that, but I bet that more of the reason is that Mac OS isn't optimized for touch.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge reason for it. That's a really good reason not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, oh, maybe they would do a dual boot thing. Whenever you slap it into the dock, it flips over to Mac OS.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a huge software pain.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'd be totally into that and I'd probably use that a lot, but it doesn't feel very Apple-like in terms of how they want people to experience their stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Stage Manager as a concept is kind of moving in the direction of how is a reasonable way to manage just like Windows on an iPad, and how could you use that? I don't think it's like a fully formed, complete idea, but I think that it's come a long ways, and
it has, but it just sometimes it feels like the iPad is so far away in terms of file management, window management.
I would say just getting say I have 10 files that I want to get off of Google Drive onto my iPad.
It's a nightmare.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Or 20 files. There's 20 files in a folder. There's not a good way to do it.
I agree.
I'll try to do it within the Files app using like the Helper app, whatever integration, and it'll just crash. Or it'll like lock up the whole system and have to restart my iPad.
A simple task like I just took these photos, or I have these photos on a T7 and I want to upload them to Google Drive, or vice versa. I want to pull these 15 files off of Google Drive and put them on a network share. Like, it's just harder to do that on an iPad.
So much harder. Accessing network shares through the Files app is a giant pain.
Yeah.
And it would be cool if a lot of those kind of things were better. But on the flip side of it, I can open up the email app, and then I can open up the email app again, and I can have a new email over here, and I can have a email over here. I can take the attachment from this one, just drag and drop it onto that other email, and it just works.
Yeah.
And like, that's that kind of thing where things working in the way that you would expect them as like a desktop operating system. Well, there's files and you can move the files around and open them up in the app and drag them to the app icon and blah, blah, blah. I think that like if they could make all that work, which it feels like we're close, then I don't think you need like full on macOS.
Yeah, you're probably right. I guess I just question how close we really are. And, I don't know.
I think that the hardware's there because it's the exact same hardware.
That's what's so frustrating about it. Is that, like, this is a newer CPU than my MacBook does.
Yeah, and you have an M2 in your iPad. It's all there, and so like there's no reason why the iPad couldn't run full Lightroom. Why do I have a mobile version of Lightroom that doesn't have as many features?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe someday.
All right. I wanted to, for the pre-show here, just do like a little PSA. I saw like, it wasn't even like a mention of this on Twitter. It was just kind of in passing. I was like, oh, I should probably just mention this. If you use your Peak Design, anchors, remember to check your anchors every so often. My anchors are fine.
Couldn't hurt.
There was no issue, but if you see red,
Mm-hmm.
replace your anchor.
And not red on the plastic disc that is the color red.
Right, but on the anchor string itself,
Mm-hmm.
they have a second color underneath, and it's always good to, on occasion, check your anchors.
Yeah.
Those will wear out over time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a clever design.
They did a replacement program for a period where
it's like one generation that was bad.
Yeah,
right?
I think they're on Gen 4 or Gen 5 now, but the version 3, which you can tell, you can just look it up online.
Mm-hmm.
The version 3 was a thinner cable and had a higher fail rate. And by higher fail rate, it was like 2 in 150,000 or something like that. It's ridiculous. But anyway, they said, we'll replace all these for free. I don't think they're doing that program anymore. But, if it's been a while since you looked at your anchors, check your anchors.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
That's my PSA.
Good advice. Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
Daniel, what episode is this?
This is episode 85.
So what you're saying is we've been doing this podcast for 85 weeks, every week, without fail.
That's right. It's a long time.
You know what that means?
What does it mean?
I think we need to take a break.
You feeling a little tired?
I just need like a couple weeks.
Yeah, you just need to like catch your breath.
Just like a little break.
Yeah, I think
like
that's
a tiny one.
Yeah. So how long is a couple of weeks? Because that means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Okay. When I was in like 6th grade, the teacher said, Lucas, grab a couple sodas over there. We're going to take them down to the teacher down the hall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I grabbed 3. And she was like, what do you think you're doing? I was like, you said to grab a couple. So I grabbed a couple. And she's like, 3's a few. 2's a couple. And you're an idiot. And you're never going to be successful in life. And you might as well quit now.
So I got to say, I thought that couple and few both meant two.
And I've always felt that a few is more than a couple.
Mm,
And so to me, a few is at least 3.
interesting. I definitely can agree with you that couple is 2. But
Yeah, that feels pretty
yeah,
set in stone.
Well, I mean, you now know that, but you in 6th grade apparently didn't know that.
It's because certain other people who were in my life before this teacher crushed all my dreams would use a couple for a lot of different things. Oh, we're just going to grab a couple of these. And it was maybe like everyone that I knew was polygamist or something.
Yeah, it could be that. Or, it could be because, in Texas, when you say y'all is any number of people.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a very large number of people.
Well, it's more than one.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not always more than one.
Is it not?
I feel like
I've never when there's one person, I'm not going to say y'all instead of you.
I don't know, man.
I say, hey, you.
I don't know.
But if it was 1.5 persons.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah. But if there's a lot of people, I mean, we're talking like, 50 or more, you have to say all y'all.
Yeah. That checks out. All y'all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
because it's more. But where's the break?
You're gesturing at the crowd. All y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But, there's no clear line between y'all and all y'all.
Right. It's not like you went from 50 to 51, and so now you got to add y'all.
Yeah, definitely not. Anyway, all that to say, we're taking 2 weeks off.
Yes, that was. Yeah, we're going to take 2 weeks off. It's probably not going to happen again for another 85 episodes, but I think we just need to
don't commit us to that.
I don't know. You never know. Every 85 episodes, we probably should have done this on a more regular interval.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a couple weeks off.
85 is a good interval, right?
Yeah.
The classic 85 episode break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a nice round number. It's a lot of people's favorite focal length.
Absolutely. There you go. That works. Well, we can only take a break during some focal length periods.
Right. Yeah.
It could be in another 35 episodes.
Yeah.
Could be in another 50.
So episode 135 is probably our next bet. Maybe 105.
If we make it to 600, maybe we'll take like 3 weeks off instead of.
Don't be crazy, Daniel.
Anyway, so you're listening to this episode now. The next 2 weeks, we will not have a new episode, but we'll be back after that with more.
Yep. Great. That was easy.
Yeah. Cool.
Is there going to be rioting in the streets?
How
many emails do we have to receive to cancel the vacation?
I mean, I feel like if we did get emails about this, I feel like there is a number of emails we could get to where we'd be like, we got to do a show.
They like pressure us into it. Like I can't stand it.
Also, if Panasonic announces the S1H Mark II tomorrow,
emergency episode. Yeah, we withhold the right to cancel the vacation at any time.
Emergency podcast.
Okay, yeah.
All right. What are we talking about today?
Well, Are you familiar with that movie Civil War?
I've heard about it, and I've heard it has something to do with photojournalism, or that's some part of it or something, but I don't know anything about this movie. I thought it was a Marvel movie.
What's the
Like,
Stop it.
no,
Stop.
like legit. When I first saw people talking about this, I was confused. I was like, didn't that come out a while ago? Like, why are people talking about that now? And then I realized it's a different movie.
What is that guy Landry from Friday Night Lights? Jesse Plemons. Do you know who Jesse Plemons is?
No clue.
Okay. In this movie, he wears these red aviators, and those were like a big deal for a while. That's not important. It has nothing to do with that was like months ago, whatever. Okay. This is a movie where, and like the premise is pretty thin because Texas and California unite forces and succeed from the United States.
Yeah. A little weak on the realism there, but okay.
Anyways, something along those lines. Civil War. It follows journalists as they move through the U.S. during this war.
Okay.
And it's been on my watch list since I saw the preview when I went to go see, what's it called? Godzilla Minus One. Yeah, I saw it then. I was like, oh man, put it on my letterboxd. It's in theaters now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know much anything else about it except that they shot a good chunk of the non-tripod shots on a DJI Ronin 4D.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of the first like released in theaters movies that was shot on that camera, right?
It is, yeah. There's been like a few TV shows and that sort of thing. This is a A24 movie,
Mm-hmm.
which more like artist focused. They give directors a little more leeway, and more original content, less, has to be an IP kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
We all love A24. Great stuff. And so this is actually the most expensive A24 movie yet. It's like $84 million. It's a very high budget for them. Anyways, really exciting that they used this DJI camera.
That's pretty
and
cool.
The director has talked to a few different people about it, and most of the stuff that he shot, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and let me pull it up. Alex Garland, which I think he's the same guy that did Ex Machina. Regardless, we'll do like a lot of dolly stuff and that sort of thing, and because of this movie taking place over a lot of different locations, kind of like what we talked about with, what was that, a creator movie, but different, a lot of locations. They didn't want to have to do all of this extra setup and rails and blah, 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 blah. But they wanted to have smooth motions in addition to shaky cam footage and tripod footage. And so where they slotted in the Ronin was essentially like gimbal work of we're not going to set up a track and we're going to get these really smooth, really interesting shots that we couldn't get we could get another way, but it would have required a lot of setup and a lot more money.
Right.
And so they saved tons of money because like the cost to set up a track and a dolly and all this stuff is probably the cost of the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than just getting a guy to walk around with a camera.
Yeah. And so it's pretty cool.
I think
we haven't really seen this before as far as people using this specific camera on cinema shoots.
Yeah.
And maybe that means maybe we're gonna see it more.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think of that I've heard of it being used on was that Apple TV show Hijack.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Shot on a plane.
They used it on the plane stuff.
Yeah. I think it's a cool camera. I was kind of thinking about it this weekend and how it kind of feels to me like a little bit of the opposite of some of the Blackmagic stuff that we talked about, where it's one of its biggest weaknesses as a cinema camera is that it doesn't shoot in RAW. I think you can only get compressed codecs. You shoot in ProRes, but you can't get RAW. But it's got all the stabilization, and it feels like the most run and gun of run and gun cameras. I think it's a neat camera.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I forget that it's called the Ronin 4D, and whenever I'm trying to remember what the name of that camera is, I search DJI chicken camera. Comes up every time.
I bet it does. Nice.
Okay, here's my next thing. So whenever I've been thinking a lot about how you're going to buy a Pixis, and I've been thinking about what kind of lenses that you need for this. And this is, we haven't said it yet, but I think this is our NAB recap episode. This is not our Leica Pentax episode. That's going to come after the break.
Yeah, good clarification.
Right. And so getting a little ahead of myself because these were announced at NAB, but I'm trying to think like what kind of lenses does Daniel need for this new fancy Elmhout camera? And what is my life going to look like whenever Daniel starts shooting in B-Raw? And how big are those files going to be?
Big.
Am I going to have to move up my plan to get a Synology? Is my laptop going to be too small? Do I have to get more T5 SSDs? I guess it'd be T7s now. Or are they up to T9? What's the current SSD that Samsung makes?
I think they have both a T7 and a T9.
Yeah, I'd probably get a T7.
I was also thinking that I just finished updating the storage on my Synology. It's like, maybe I should buy some more drives.
I think you should. Anyway, so Laowa, you may be familiar with them, Chinese lens manufacturer.
They make pretty good lenses.
They have these Cine Zooms they just came out with, and they're only $3,000 each.
It's pretty high.
So you could get both of them for about $6,000.
Oh, that's it?
And they are L-mount, and they are geared manual lenses, 28 to 75 T2.9, and a 75 to 180 T2.9. And they're parfocal.
They look pretty cool.
And they're spherical.
They've got the gears on them. Pretty neat.
And they're not huge.
Yeah. Reasonable size and all that.
Yep.
The price is a little high.
I don't know what you expected, Daniel. You're buying a $6,000 camera and getting into cine gear. You have to get cine lenses.
Yeah. At some point, we are going to have to talk about what the minimal lens setup for a camera like that is. You know, like what would you actually need to start with? This range of focal length is perfect. I mean, 28 to 75, 75 to 180, like that covers everything you need. I mean, they're not primes, so, you know, you're going to lose some quality there, but I bet they're good.
I think you get only the 28 to 70 L-mount Laowa. What are these? The Ranger Zoom.
That's the new one that you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're saying buy a single $3,000 lens.
Yes.
Or extreme.
All of those Cook Cine lenses. How much were those? Those are probably
those are a lot more, I think.
Okay, well, there's more options here as we get through the NAB stuff.
Yeah, I guess you're just going to decide whether that makes more sense or 3 anamorphic primes. Right?
Well, those are all Super 35.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, you could shoot in like a cut-in mode or whatever. I think it has like a Super 35 mode, but then you're not going to get the whole 6K.
Yeah, good point.
I'm saying, like, you're gonna go out there and buy like a 24 to 70 like Sigma lens?
Oh yeah, who would do that?
Come on. I mean, it's like a photo lens. You got to get like a cinema lens. I feel very strongly about this.
Apparently you do. Very strongly about how I spend my money.
Yes. Okay. And then addition to that is some more lenses. Are you familiar with Nisi? Is that how you say that?
I think I've heard of them. I think Caleb Pike did a video on them one time, and I think he was impressed with their stuff. So it made me a little interested in them.
Yeah. So they have cheap, sure.
Cheap.
You know, cine primes, maybe not quite as cheap as like a Rokinon or a Viltrox,
yeah,
but, you know, reasonable. And so you can get 8 cinema primes for $9,000. But Daniel, you can just buy one. It's like $1,200.
I mean, that $1,200 is more approachable to me than $3,000.
Sure. And they have like 8 focal lengths. They have previously they had a 14, 25, 35, 40, and 85. And I know I said that fast. But with NAB, they announced an 18, a 40, and a 135.
Yeah.
So
that's a pretty, they've got pretty good coverage there across the range.
If you ask me, if you said, Lucas, which of these lenses should I get? I only have $3,000 and I don't want to buy that really cool zoom that you told me about. I'd say you got to get the 14 and the 40 and the 85.
That's for one thing, it's more than $3,000.
It's fine. It's not my money.
But defend your choice. Why those 3?
Well, I think that you got to get one that's the widest that you can go. You got to get a wide one.
You just gotta.
And I think that 18, actually this is full frame, isn't it?
That's why I was wondering if you picked up on that.
14 is insane. Don't get the 14.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind. Go with the 25. 25 feels just right.
Yeah, it's like the classic end of a wide angle zoom.
And then 40 is like your natural looking, close between 35 and 50.
You think 40 over 50?
I do. I like 40 more. More of a 40 guy.
Yeah.
It might be because my Minolta point and shoot's a 40 millimeter. And so I'm becoming more and more fond. That 27 millimeter little pancake lens, that's roughly 40 millimeters.
Yeah. There you go.
Anyway.
And 85 is an obvious.
Yeah. And then you got to go 85. So
I had thought that if I was going to buy that camera, I would get a 24 to 70 just to have, you know, coverage across the range, and then an 85 prime.
I mean, it's reasonable. You got to wait until Panasonic comes out with that they're 28 to 70, 2 to 2.8.
That would be a good lens.
Be so fast.
Yep.
All right. Those are your options.
Yeah. Well, lots to think about there. Sounds like a lot of money to spend, though.
There's actually more options. I was trying to find.
Sure.
I was trying to find the Viltrox white Cine Primes because I thought those were cheap, but then they weren't as cheap as I remember them being. But then I was accidentally looking at the anamorphic version. But I remember them having spherical versions. There's so many of these like Chinese brand, like you look like Suray or Nisi or was it Blazer or I'm already forgetting like half of these things. Laowa. There's so many of these, like just manual lens brands.
Yeah, but the trade-off is, I mean, you still want to make sure you're getting good optical quality because, if you're buying a camera that's capable of really high quality, you don't want to ruin it by getting some like cheapo lens. So it's hard to figure out where that line is.
No, see, Daniel, when we're talking about like mirrorless cameras and like photo glass, like it's got to be the cleanest glass that you can buy. When you're talking about cinema cameras, none of that matters anymore. The thing that matters is character.
Sound like a Fuji shooter.
And so really what you want to find the one that has just the right imperfections for your cinema style.
Yeah. Right. I don't know about all that.
Okay. Next thing here. I also was looking into B-Raw more.
Yeah, because we talked about that in our first Blackmagic episode when we gave a 17-minute teaser. We were a little confused about what the deal was with Blackmagic Raw being 12-bit versus a 16-bit sensor, right?
Yeah, and like I took a stab at it, I think, and it's exactly what we thought it was. There's no like shocker here. The 12-bit RAW for Blackmagic is log. What's interesting is that B-Raw comes with its own LUT embedded into the RAW file. So whenever you bring your B-Raw into Resolve, you can like check a box to turn the LUT on and off. And you can also transform within Resolve to 16-bit linear. So if you want to edit in 16-bit linear, you just convert it over and it's super easy.
Okay.
But generally it is 12-bit log for the RAW file. But you still get like the full stop range. And then you have the choice to compress it down. I think on some cameras, they'll go down to like an 18:1 compression ratio, depending upon the codec. But I think that the Pixis is only 12:1.
I mean, and I assume you pay a price for that compression, right? Like that does hurt your ability to push that footage a little bit.
I would expect that it probably doesn't matter as much as the compression on like H.265. I think that whenever you're talking about RAW, I mean, it's going to be more taxing on your machine to get it converted over. You're going to lose just a little bit of that quality because of the compression. And I should have wrote it down because I can never remember the exact sequence. But it's taking that raw information and it's storing it as like WRYGCR. Is that right? Where it has like the two different Y values and then it has the chroma value.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't remember the order.
It's storing the information like that for the debarring, like, or it debarrs it into that information, and then that's the information that translates into the raw, and then like it just compresses it down. And if you compress it down as much as you can into like the 12:1, so like the smallest file size, it's like 75, 70, depending upon the codec, like the 4K, 6K, whatever, like 75 megabytes per second. And so you're looking at the smallest file size for your B-RAW being 600 megabits per second.
What does that translate to in terms of if I'm shooting a file, how much space is it going to take up?
Say like 10 minutes will be 64 gigs.
That's going to be real fun when we shoot those 40-minute interviews.
But it's like, that's overkill too. You don't really need all of that rawness. But
yeah,
what
are you going to do on that camera? You don't have a choice.
That's it. It translates to about double of what we normally shoot 6K at. Usually we're shooting 6K at like 320 megabit per second.
Yeah, 360 I think
360, yeah. And I know that, you can do like a less compressed H.265 on the Fuji and other cameras where you're pushing like 600 or 800, especially if you're all intra.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of get B-RAW down close to like a really high quality all-I H.265.
In terms of file size, we're not talking about quality of the...
Right, in terms of file size. In terms of quality, the B-RAW is probably going to be infinitely better than just the quality that you're going to get out of a really good H.265, because you're not doing any of like the dealing with the chroma subsample stuff, and you're not compressing it down.
Yeah, and you're not even committing to a specific ISO value or white balance or whatever. So some advantages there.
It's fun whenever you start digging into the forums where people are talking about raw footage, because apparently like there's some people who shoot raw that are pretty adamant that you should never not shoot raw. They're like, why would I ever choose to shoot in this H.265 garbage?
Those people must have large hard drives.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it's fine. It's just like you're going to have to process it.
Yeah.
And I think that most of these B-RAW codecs come with the sidecar file. And so it's like you also have the H.264 thing. And so you just kind of like set the big files over there, use the small files. And then whenever you finish the project, you use the big files, and then you just don't save the RAWs, or you compress the RAWs down to store them if you don't want to store the RAWs.
Right. Yeah, you could process them into an H.265 or something if you really wanted to.
It's just going to add a lot of overhead and a lot of space.
Yeah.
I did download a sample file. I was like just browsing their stuff, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. And so I downloaded a sample RAW file that was like a half a gig onto my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 15-second clip. I pulled it into Resolve on my iPad because awesome. And I was like transforming it and like screwing around with the white balance, and boy, that stuff is flexible. You can just do whatever you want with it. It's like editing a raw. I mean, it is editing a raw image, right? It's just like raw in Lightroom, but now for video. And I mean, if it matters, I would never like. If I'm shooting something that matters, that's photo, I'm always going to shoot it in RAW.
Yeah.
And like once you have the ability to do that in video, it's kind of like, why not make the same choice? But I feel like it's because the cost of that choice gets expensive.
I do think that, it's kind of a different conversation maybe, but, if we think about like the types of video projects we do, or we're delivering something for a client, I feel like once you've delivered that and gotten it approved, you probably don't really need to save your raw originals. Like what are you going to need that for?
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of comes down to like, depends upon what the contract says. And if you know that you don't want to have to deal with that footage, then you kind of have to say, in the contract, we're not going to save these files. We will save the final product, and we will keep that on file for X amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we do not promise that we'll have your files anymore.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure you're right. I think right now our current contracts are like, we'll keep everything for 8 months,
6 months,
6 months.
But then it's just like, you have to have the storage space to store that for a while, but at least you can go in every month and cull the old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
It's just a change of like all the processes, and I think this is a really big sticking point for that camera.
Yeah,
it's like if you're running a box camera and these cinema lenses that I suggested to you, it feels like that's the kind of situation when you use that camera, you're using it for something where you need RAW.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tool for a job. You're not expecting that to be a do everything camera. I mean, I think I said that when we talked about the Pixis, that it's not something where you're going to go shoot at an event and deliver the footage that night. It's more for a bigger project that you've planned out. And so I think it makes sense for that. But I am just disappointed they didn't put a reasonable H.265 option in, because I mean, it'd be just nice to have that as a choice.
Yeah, I can imagine a situation where, say, you're going to shoot like documentary stuff and you need to capture tons of footage.
Mm-hmm.
One, really nice if you're shooting like in the field and not having to deal with, oh shoot, my white balance was wrong.
Yeah,
and
that's
sort of thing.
true.
Like, you're going to get way more recoverable, manageable, workable footage.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like at the cost of that, those hard drives.
You're going to need a stack of T7s for that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like cool, then maybe useful for documentary and that, but I could see, wow, we shot 400 gigs of footage over a weekend for like this documentary thing. And if that's raw now, that's a terabyte or 2 terabytes.
Yeah. I guess it's something we'll have to think about, whether that's what we want to take on or not. But
woof. Okay, are you ready for the NAB recap show?
Yeah, I think it's time.
So I have an idea for the format here, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how we dig through this.
No, I really don't. What's your idea?
Okay, I'm thinking that maybe do this more of like a lightning round, just kind of hit every single one of these 75 bullet points.
Sure. That's not, I can't promise we're not going to have a lot of thoughts on some of these, but
sure. And I would like to reserve the right to dig into one of these topics in a future episode.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Cool.
So where do you want to start?
I mean, I guess at the top.
That's a good place to start.
All right. I don't remember what it's called. It was like a trifexis or something. That's a dog heartworm medicine. Potato Jet released a tripod.
Yeah.
Well, small rig
That's
and
a
Potato
cool
Jet.
looking tripod too.
Mhm.
I want one of those.
Tell me a little bit about it.
So it seems like the big feature of it is that you have one thing that you, like one hand control.
X clutch.
Yeah, that you grab and lets you extend all three of the legs at once. So I think
all three joints of all three legs.
Yes.
So you have three telescoping parts of the tripod leg, three legs. You take this handle, and then the handle can be just a handle, or you can extend a part to activate the clutch, and then you squeeze the clutch, and now everything is collapsible.
Yeah, and so you can just like pop this thing out in no time, and I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I bought a small rig Freeblazer tripod because that one at least just has one latch per leg, which is handier than having to do like the three latches per leg. But you still have these three separate things you have to deal with, and that one is just like one control to do everything. And the other cool thing about it is that it actually seems like it has a really strong weight capacity, because a lot of times, it's like, it looks like a travel tripod and it just has a single little stick for each leg. And usually those don't hold much weight, but he was like hanging off of it and doing pull-ups on it. And it seems like it's actually capable of holding quite a bit of weight.
Right. So they're definitely positioning this as a professional piece of gear. They have not released a price for it. I would expect that it's probably going to be as expensive or more expensive than the Freeblazer.
I'm sure it's going to be more expensive.
Was $400 roughly. So
with the Freeblazer is that expensive with a tripod head.
Right. And this doesn't have it has like a head on it, but it doesn't have a ball head, like a normal bowl and ball for like adjustment.
So you have to, well, yeah, so it doesn't have the ball because you can just adjust the tripod legs to get the level.
Yeah, concept being you can look at the little bubble level, grab the clutch, and then just position it, and you're done.
But can you change the head out with other tripod heads?
I would expect that you can. I would be shocked if you couldn't.
Because that reduces the price a lot. If you already have a head that you're happy with, sometimes you can just get the base.
Yeah, and then it has a center column, which we know is important for you.
Yeah. I don't know. When I bought the Freeblazer, I felt like, I don't think I felt like I would never need to buy another tripod, but I felt like it would last a long time. Then I saw this thing. I was like, might need to buy a new tripod.
Well, you're just going to have to sell me your Freeblazer or let me buy this tripod.
Yeah. Either way, I think, we're frequently in situations where we're having to set up tripods, get cameras going and stuff. And something like this seems really handy.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be small, like be able to pack down small enough that you can like stick it in a suitcase or something.
Yeah,
so
travel with it.
Yeah, not super huge, not travel size, but manageable in size. I do like the idea of being able to just kind of grab the thing and deploy all the legs and just position it where I want it and then let go, and now it's set.
Yeah.
That seems great.
And it's not out yet, but it sounded like in a few months it'll be out.
It's something that is like kind of feels obvious on the face of it, and I thought like this is what the Freeblazer was going to be. I was like, oh, you can grab these things and like all the legs deploy, and then it wasn't. It was like you have to do each one individually, but like the Switch will do all the legs. And this feels like the kind of thing where why didn't it exist before?
Yeah.
And it seems like we're starting to get some like innovation into tripod technology, but it feels like it was weird that we kind of, had the same tripods. Apart from material, like, no, it's aluminum now, it's carbon fiber. But it was like the same stinking thing for, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years.
I kind of feel like some of that is the positive. Like a lot of times I think I've disparaged YouTubers, with camera gear of like being, pretty casual and kind of affecting how we perceive, the camera world. But I think this is one of the positive sides of that where we're starting to see some of this innovation because we've got all these people out there that are doing filmmaking as quickly as possible, where it's like they want to have good gear. They have the budget for good gear and they want their stuff to look good, but they're not taking like days to set up a shot and they don't have a full crew. And like, they kind of need stuff to be real fast to work with and one person to be able to handle it. And this feels right in line with that.
Totally agree. So, going to be out in a little bit. One more question here. Do you think that this is going to be better or worse than the Tripod X by Edelchrome.
Well, it's definitely heavier because, the Tripod X, as we've previously discussed, doesn't have any weight since you can just drive it in a vehicle,
Right. Whereas this Potato Jet tripod,
Yeah, I mean,
you have
presumably
to put
it
it in a
has-
suitcase and carry it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally holds it in his hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's, it's definitely worse, but
Also,
I would rather have this.
yeah, this seems a lot faster too.
Yeah, it does.
And you don't have to charge it.
It's, now that you mention it, this kind of kills the Tripod X. Like even all the benefits of the Tripod X, this kind
But
of kills.
the Tripod X, even though you're not supposed to use it as a moving while shooting device, you could use it to move and shoot at the same
Yeah,
time.
you could. Yeah, if you're a rule breaker.
Yep, like a rebel.
All right, what's next?
Okay, next thing here is these Laowa Ranger Cine Zooms.
Yeah, I think you've told me about those.
Yeah, but no, Daniel. They also have Super 35 versions. And they have an 11 to 18, a 17 to 50, and a 50 to 130.
Those
And
are
they're all just like compact
lengths.
little Cine Zooms.
So what, for Super 35, what lens mount are those?
I think that they come in just kind of all their standard lens mounts. I think that they're releasing them in like L and maybe probably like PL and E and EF and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a link for these ones specifically, but I'm pretty sure those are the ones.
Yeah. And do you think they're cheaper, or do you think the same price, or?
Oh, like I know, Dan.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, but I don't know. It's interesting. I think I kind of have a higher impression of Laowa over some of the other, like I feel like I would trust their lenses a little bit over something like a Rokinon or a Sirui or, one of those. I don't know.
And I think most of my impression has come from just the little anamorph things and how like the Siri ones had that like squeeze problem when out while you're zooming versus zooming at close focal. Close focal, like the squeeze changed basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the nanomorphs were like better. And I was like, oh, maybe Laowa's better at lenses. But I mean, I think that it kind of just comes down to the exact design. And a lot of these are commodities essentially.
Yeah.
These are $2,000 and range up to, I think, $5,000 or $6,000 if you get all of them.
So it's that's substantially cheaper than the full frame ones, because the full frame ones are $3,000 each.
That is correct. I may be totally wrong about this. Regardless, they exist. Let's move on.
Cool.
I don't know what this next one is.
Yeah, Saramo less than 300.
That's right.
No idea.
that is what my notes say.
Well, if you're listening to this and you've been waiting for the Saramo, but you're not sure what the price is, all we can say, less than 300.
Yep. Daniel, it's not my fault. There was a lot of NAB content, and I can't be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just have to wonder.
Okay. We're going to talk about some more anamorphic lenses.
How many could there be?
There's just so many. There were so many lenses.
You really keep stretching this out.
Just search like NAB and then like Cine Lens
Mm-hmm.
and like every company.
Yep.
So these are Atlas Orion, and they're Super 35 anamorphic lenses. And they like the Orion lenses they're not like cheap. They're basically in line with the cost of, like those Cook. They're not anamorphic. They're the Cook lenses they came out with for our mount. Those, what were they called? Like SP3s or something?
Yeah.
Anyways, like that kind of price range, right? Just the cheaper-ish, but not $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this is a 2X anamorphic. It's the Orion line by Atlas. I mentioned that before, but
yeah, just keep telling us.
They're good.
Yeah.
They're good lenses, okay? 18 millimeters, the widest 2X anamorphic prime for Super 35. Period.
So that's about 27 in full frame equivalent. It gets different with anamorphic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like full frame anamorphic equivalent, but like a 27, even on full frame, like if we're talking about, say, 24 millimeter, it's still like way wider.
Yeah.
Because you have literally a wider field of view.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're squishing it in.
Pretty cool.
It's very cool. Daniel, 18 millimeters is so wide. It's like on Super 35, on anamorphic, it's like so wide. It's just so wide.
I feel like you are too excited about this.
I don't think you understand.
I guess I don't.
Just go watch a video on it.
Okay. But will the video be shot on it?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just here to talk about this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one I meant to look up more because it's super duper exciting.
You got to tell me what it's called first.
Okay, I put the thing down so that I can say Jaeun better. I'm really working on my Jaeun pronunciation.
You just said it 2 different ways there.
No, I didn't.
Well, what's this product though?
Okay, this is like one of 2 products that they announced at NAB, obviously. And why is this link not opening? It's called a Smoke Genie, and it's a handheld smoke machine.
Like a vape pen?
Yes, and it's like $250, and you can just like shoot smoke.
Why have you not already bought one of these?
Because it just came out, Daniel.
Oh, didn't they already have one? So they just came out with the Smoke Genie. Didn't they have a Smoke Ninja before?
Yes, they have a Smoke Ninja and a Smoke Genie.
Are both of those new?
I think they are both new. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know, man. I'm seeing stuff in stock on B&H right now. I think you're gonna have to get on that. These must be something different though, because yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to. I guess. Do you know more about this? Because these are made by other brands. It's like it's made by PMI. PMI Smoke Genie Smoke Ninja, $250.
Oh yeah, they do make that.
Yeah. So must be something else going on with this one.
Okay, it was like a quick thing. Let me pull a little more information.
It's just Lucas. It's a handheld smoke machine. You know you got to get one of these.
It's super exciting.
Pretty cool.
I saw it and I freaked out and I wrote it on the list and I successfully didn't learn any more information about it. But that's not important.
I also didn't look anything up on it, but I saw it and I was like, we're gonna have to talking about this in the podcast at some point.
Anyway, I need like a haze machine in my life. Like I need just like a little tiny haze machine that I can deploy haze. We've done enough music videos that like there have been ones where like bring the hazer. And we had someone bring a hazer, but it's like a whole thing. They had to bring the fluid. But if I could just like whip one out of my backpack and just start applying haze.
I would love if it just went off in your backpack, you know, like unexpectedly. And then you unzip your backpack and just all the smoke comes out of it. It'd be pretty great.
That would be hilarious.
Cool.
I cannot find this on the internet at all.
Makes it sound like we're making it up.
We're not making
it up. I saw it too.
It exists.
It was pretty cool.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, moving on. Next one.
This looks like more lenses.
Yeah, so are you familiar with DZO?
Yes.
They make cine lenses, Daniel.
They do. You're right.
Okay, and they came out with a few more of their Pavo cine lenses, and these are anamorphic. And I think they added like a 60 macro and like a 135 and a 180. And yeah, more. I think we're up to like 11 of these things or something silly.
I guess they're just, once they start the lineup, it's like they can just expand it with more focal lengths. And I assume they try to all keep them generally the same size and stuff like that. Is that still the case for these, or are they not really cine lenses in that way?
I think that they're like close. They are all a part of the same set, but I don't think that they're as uniform as you're describing.
Yeah,
they're not like it's a kit. You can get them as a kit, but it's not like the widest and the longest are exactly the same.
I mean, they're probably going to color match.
They're gonna color match. You're gonna have common gearing locations probably, and so you don't like reset everything as you switch lenses. And it's nice to see those lines getting more and more complete.
More options.
And this is just another one for you to pick. These DZOs are typically they're like in that mid range, right? Like you're still looking at maybe $3,000 or $4,000 for a lens.
Yeah, pretty high.
I mean, it's cinema lenses, Daniel.
Yeah,
you got to get used to this pricing.
Apparently,
if you buy it,
do I have to get used to it? I don't know if I have to get used to it.
Okay,
I'm just gonna buy a Ronin 4D. I mean, no raw. No cinema lenses.
You can still put a cinema. You're gonna have to put a cinema lens on there with the gears because you're gonna have to get one of those LiDAR things, and you have to have like a Magic Fizz or something, or the laser, focus deal.
That's true. You're right.
I'm just saying. Anyway, this next one I'm going to move to our next episode because I don't think we can get into this right now. Have you seen?
Instead, we're going to talk about more lenses.
Have you seen the updates to Premiere?
I've seen a little bit of it, but you're right. I haven't seen enough to talk about it.
Like we talk a lot about Resolve because we edit in Resolve,
Mm-hmm.
but Premiere's like Adobe is coming.
Yeah.
They are coming for Blackmagic.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got a lot going on. I do think that would be maybe a good topic for next episode.
Okay, yeah. So I'm pushing that out a little bit. And I'm going to skip over these next lenses because I think we've talked about too many lenses. And I'm going to skip over this next one also. And then I'm going to mention another one, which also probably deserves to be a whole main topic. And that's the Insta360 8K X4.
Yeah, that made a pretty big splash for a couple of different reasons. What do you want to talk about with that one?
I mean, why did it make a big splash, Daniel? Tell me why.
Well, so I mean, it was announced, and it's the highest resolution 360 camera, Insta360 camera yet, and people are like, this is great because you can shoot in 360, but then you can crop down and just get like a normal 4K looking image, and basically trying to say this is a big step forward. This is the biggest update since they came out with the 360 cams and all this stuff.
Yep.
I kind of feel like maybe some of the shine is wearing off a little bit. So I know on the Petapixel podcast, Jordan Drake was saying that it's like, yeah, this is cool, but also you have to have really good light to actually achieve good quality. Like it gets kind of muddy, I think, as soon as it gets
Sure.
darker. And so it's like, it's great if you're snowboarding, but probably not, like your do everything camera. But the bigger problem is that there's some drama right now because I don't know the details of this, but it's kind of started to come out that it sounds like Insta360 has been asking some, they get people to make videos for them, creators to make videos. And I think they're doing something about asking those creators to not disclose that those videos are sponsored. And that's caused some drama.
That seems questionable.
I've seen at least one or two creators say they're no longer working with Insta360 because of that. So it's like,
what?
Yeah, quite a bit of drama going on around that camera.
Boy, I mean, I don't know if you can. I mean, that seems inadvisable.
Yeah, it's a bad move. So we'll see what happens with that. But kind of just casts a little bit of a shadow over that camera.
For sure. I mean, this is kind of like their big launch.
Mm-hmm.
Adding 8K to this camera is pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
When 8K, blah blah blah. Why do you need 8K, et cetera, et cetera? But whenever you're with the 360-degree video resolutions, like getting both sides up to 4K image with those wide angles, like it's good, right? Like it's getting to the point where you have like just that much resolution, being able to have 4K on both sides makes it more usable in trying to break that footage out into a 4K timeline. And so you kind of get more crispness and sharpness. And yes, you're not going to have as good low light capability, but this is a pretty big update. And apparently it's just like a lot of the features seem to be very like forward thinking, and it has a lot of capabilities kind of outside of what like even maybe higher end 360 cameras offer. And it can do things like you can shoot on just one side, and you can like do like the fixed location thing where it's like hold a certain piece kind of in main focus, and you can kind of just like shoot and capture everything.
Yeah. I mean, they seem like really cool cameras, and I have to imagine we're really going to see these things take off with stuff like the Apple Vision Pro and kind of the general push toward VR and stuff. It just, a camera like this is so perfect for that. I have to imagine that this is a growing category.
It does seem like it is a pretty good bump over the previous version of this camera.
I agree.
I think that it's like sometimes we see, especially like with the DJI stuff, with this, I know this isn't DJI, but like with action cameras or GoPro, you see the new version and it's like really exciting on the face of it, but at the end of it, it's, not that much more impressive over the previous version. And based on like the quality and stuff coming out of this thing, it does seem like this is a pretty good jump over the previous version.
I mean, I've always thought these were cool cameras, and what's really held me back from wanting to get one is that it feels like there are cases where I'd use it and where it'd be the perfect thing, but those cases just aren't enough of what I do with a camera. And that's been my problem with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Still feels too niche.
So this thing is $500 for just the camera. I don't know if it's interchangeable with all the accessories. And as far as the 360 mode resolutions, that 8K, you're capping out at 30 frames per second.
Mm-hmm.
You can do 25 or 24. And then if you bring it down into, I guess you have the option to shoot like 5.7K, like oversampled, or you can, do like bend and get up to 60 frames per second in 5.7. And then you can do, I think it's like 100 frames per second for 4K. So like you have some higher speed stuff, nothing higher than 100 frames per second. And the 8K is limited to just your standard, 30.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it definitely seems like a good update. I think it doesn't change. I think it's an exaggeration to say like, oh, you can just use this and you don't need a regular camera. The quality is not going to be the same as shooting, a normal single lens camera, but definitely seems like a good upgrade if you need a 360 camera.
Yeah, sure. If you need a 360, or if you're looking for something that can take the place of maybe an action camera.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you can stick these things underwater. I think they're water sealed and that sort of thing. And so useful in that manner, but maybe, not, if you need higher frame rates, it's not going to quite have the same maybe capabilities as the GoPro or the DJI. What's the DJI action cam called?
The
Osmo Action.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's cool. I think we can probably dig into that a little more, but this is a lightning.
Yep. Yeah, we're not
round episode. It's not really that round.
We're going to have to go faster if we're doing a lightning round.
Well, Daniel, I think there's going to be more of these where I'm like, I actually don't know anything about this.
Yep. All right. What do you got?
Okay. So there are these stackable batteries made by Core, and I wrote Magnets Baby next to it.
Magnets Baby.
Yeah.
So,
I don't even remember what kind of batteries they are, but they're camera batteries.
So you stick a battery on there and then you stick another one on top, another one on top.
Yeah, and they just charge.
Sounds kind of cool.
Skipping over this next one, and this next one, and this one after. Actually, this one after that is one that I really need to look into, because Aperture came out with, like an overhead panel light, but like not like a panel light, but like if you want like a really big light source.
Yeah, it's like a mat, right?
Yeah. But this thing will go from, it'll go small, like maybe like a foot by a foot or something like that. But you expand this thing to be like freaking huge, like bigger than a car, and it's a light.
Is it single color, or aren't they RGB?
I think that they are all RGB. It's called the Infinimat.
It's pretty cool. There was some interesting news around Aperture recently too, where I think Amaran is splitting off into its own company.
Interesting.
Amaran's been the, they call it creator, but let's be honest, like the budget Aperture brand. And I think they're breaking that out into a separate company. And they're saying that's probably good news for people because, each company can, they're still going to be partnered, I think they're owned by the same, like top corporation or whatever. But I think basically they would each be able to focus more on like products that fit that lineup. And, I don't know. We use Amaran stuff and think it's great. So, no complaints there. But, Deity is also owned by Aperture. And so now I think they're just being a little bit more clear about, what their brands are. And like for Aperture, they've got like these premium lights, and then Amaran's less premium than that. And I'm pretty sure these new ones are like under the like premium Aperture brand. So they're probably pretty expensive.
Okay. Yeah. So that is super interesting. I'm curious to see what happens there. These will be under Aperture. They have multiple sizes, and it's 1x2, 1x4, 2x4, 4x4, 8x8, or 20x20. And they're essentially, it's like an RGB, not RGB. I think it has a W in there. It's like RGBWW.
Yeah.
So it's RGB and both whites. And so you can get the temperature color and it's like a panel light that's like flexible in a way. And so you can kind of like roll it out and use it like a
blanket.
Like a mat.
Like if you get cold, you
but
can
then
use
it's
a blanket.
Also inflatable. So like you can pop this thing out and inflate it. And now
like
you have
use it at the pool?
Dude, maybe. I'm not going to say no. You just like, boop, inflate this thing. And then you have like a 20x20.
That's pretty cool.
Giant panel light.
So I assume the advantage to inflating it is that it holds its own, like
structure,
it's its own, it's its own frame basically. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I want one of these things in like 8x8. I want to use it as an interview key light.
Oh man.
And then just be like, boom, pop it up and just put it against the wall.
Get one of those CO2 inflators like you use on a bike, so you can just pop it open in a second.
Yes.
Oh man,
Yeah, so
that'd be cool.
I thought that was super awesome, and they
Yeah.
haven't necessarily announced like availability and pricing yet.
Gonna
It's
be
coming.
a lot. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't say Amaranth, so it's going to be like crazy expensive. Anyways, I thought that was super cool.
It is cool.
Okay, I still haven't learned anything about the Caleb Pike small rig batteries. Have you?
Yeah, I watched this video on them. So short version is, small rig has these V mount batteries that I think are really good. They're small and you have a lot of outputs and stuff. And this one's basically a supercharged version of that. So it's 212 watt hours.
That's crazy.
It's a lot. I have a 50 watt hour battery. So it's bigger, than those. It's expensive. It's, I think, $439 maybe, something like that.
How far could you drive on 212 watt hours?
Not very far. Not very far at all. Very, very, very short distance.
How big is a Tesla battery?
Tesla battery is like...
It's like, what, 57 kilowatts?
No, it's like
that?
75 or 100 kilowatt hours, something like that. Maybe 75.
All right, you keep talking. I'm going to do some math.
Yeah. Anyway, so this battery, like 212 watt hours, it can also output 212 watts at once. So if you draw that much, you get 1 hour of runtime out of it. But this thing has tons of outputs on it. So you can do, USB-C, D-tap. Obviously, it's a V-mount battery, so you can plug it into like a V-mount plate. I think it had some DC barrel jacks. And some of the USB-C ports can output at really high wattages. I think you can do 140 watts out on a single port, which like I can charge a MacBook at the highest, at the highest rate.
Yeah.
And so you can do all that, but you can output, on all these ports at once, which is a big deal because on my little battery, I discovered I can't plug things into all the ports at once. There are certain combinations that just won't work, which is really frustrating. And on this one, it seems like you can just pick whatever you want and output on it. And you can do a total of 212 watts at a time, spread across all those ports. And so he was showing a demonstration in his video where he powered a Canon R5C from it and had it recording, I think. And then he was also charging his MacBook. He was running some kind of light, like some type of Amaranth light off of it. And then he was like charging his Rode Wireless Pro and had a monitor plugged into it, had a Teradek plugged into it, like all this stuff. And, he was still under that 212 limit. So he was like, yeah, I can run all this stuff for at least an hour.
Okay, that's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you could use this thing as a field battery, like totally separate from camera gear. If you're going camping, you could take this thing with you and, like charge your laptop.
How big is this thing?
It's not that huge. It's obviously bigger than my little V-mount battery, but it's not sized unreasonably. Like you can lock it into a V-mount plate and use it on a V-mount plate. So it's surprisingly small.
Okay, so is it only the 212 or is there a larger one?
I think it's only the 212.
Okay, so I think you can drive probably like 3/4 of a mile in a Tesla.
You're gonna have to swap out those batteries pretty often then.
Just if you're in a jam, and the charger's just a half mile down the road.
Yeah, that's a pretty niche situation, but good to know, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Cool battery.
Okay.
It seems it also had a lot of, like I think it can show you how much voltage it's putting out on the USB-C. It can show you like the watt draw. Like you should watch this video, but it's got some cool stuff.
Okay, I think that this would pair really well with what Bebob announced, which is the ML Micro V-mount battery adapter. They specifically
who's Bebob?
Don't worry about it, Daniel.
Oh, okay.
But this bad boy, they specifically built for the Burano, and I think that they're advertising it at $1,200.
What?
But
what does this thing do?
It's a battery plate, and so you take this battery plate and you slap it into your V-mount, and then the back of it is also a V-mount, and it has a battery inside of it. So now you can hot swap batteries onto your camera without shutting down your camera. So that's cool.
I see.
It has 2 D-taps, 3 2-pin LEMOs, a USB-A, a USB-C, all on the exterior of the thing. So you can power like your follow focus or your monitor and whatever things you need in your rig because you have both D-taps. You got the LEMOs. And then like if you slap one of these crazy V mounts on there, you have even more boards on top of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it's basic that thing is basically a V mount plate with a battery built in, which is a really cool idea.
Well, yeah, if you're trying to oversimplify it. And because it's a bebob, like the little switch that you press to pull the battery out, you double tap that boy, it's got a flashlight in it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
More things just need flashlights.
Apparently. Like that watch you almost bought.
I mean, I came so close, Daniel. I don't know why everyone was so mad about like Daniel, I should get the pro, is it pro version of the Phoenix instead of like just the regular Phoenix 7 because it's got a flashlight built in.
Imagine
Daniel,
how many times you would have used that flashlight by now.
That 1,000 times. And you're like, that's stupid, and I think you're wrong. Anyway.
That's exactly how that conversation went.
I think this thing is cool.
Yeah. Kind of neat. Not as cool as the battery, but.
Well, I mean, you got to get both.
Yeah.
$2,000 in.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yep.
Here's one that I thought was kind of cool that I don't think is in your list, but the Atomos, who makes the Ninja.
Never heard of them.
Came out with a phone version of the Ninja. And it took me a moment to figure out what this meant, but it seems like it's this thing that you can combine with like an iPhone 15 Pro Max. And basically like the combination of those two things together makes it into a Ninja. So I think you can record to the phone maybe, or record to a USB battery, but it uses the phone as the monitor and to actually like process the footage, and like encode it as ProRes or whatever you're doing. And so, it's cheaper and smaller than a Ninja, and it's using the phone you already have. And I don't know, kind of a neat idea.
Okay, this looks really cool and is very, very similar to something else that's on this list. I kind of trust the name Atomos a little more just because I own their products.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't care about brand loyalty, Axoon made this thing called, it's like the SEMO phone thing. I don't think phone thing's in the name, but it's like a SEMO whatever. And it's literally this exact same thing. It has an NPF battery plate in it. You stick your phone in there, and then you slap the NPF on it to power it, and it connects a USB-C cable to the phone, from the phone to the SEMO, and then you run HDMI in to this contraption.
Okay.
And that HDMI could be anything, but primarily it would be a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has all the camera monitor features. So you open up the app, and then like you can do all your camera monitoring, whatever, and your waveforms, and monitor your footage, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But then it also lets you record H.264 onto the phone.
Oh, okay.
And it has an SD card slot on it. You can't record to the SD card slot, but you can dump footage to it if you're running out of space.
Interesting.
And you can take the video input and then like stream that out of the app to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like doing camera to cloud or something, boom, it's right there.
Cool. I kind of I think it's cool these products exist, but I've also feel like I've been in so many situations where I was trying to use my phone for something while filming or whatever. And it's just like the unreliability gets to me sometimes where, oh no, I forgot to charge my phone, or I don't have service right now, or, I don't know. I just don't trust it as much as having dedicated gear. I'd rather have dedicated gear, but I get that these things are a lot cheaper, and it's cool that you can reuse screens you already have. So I guess that's their advantage.
Well, like, are they a lot cheaper? The Atomos one's $400.
Yeah.
And
a comparable Ninja is what?
Euro?
Like a comparable Ninja is 600, 700, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I'd be real tempted to just spend that extra $200 to $300 and have a all-in-one unit.
I get wanting it to be a separate thing. The Ninja seems very geared towards being used for your phone. The one from Axoon, I think they're advertising it as also using it for your iPad.
Okay.
And so if you want to use like a 12.9-inch iPad.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least it's bigger then, you get that advantage. But
yeah,
still, I'm just like, do I want my 12.9-inch, let's call it $1,000 iPad, sitting on this film set? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it's going to be the cheapest thing on the film set.
It's true.
It's like there's give and take to it, because I think that once you introduce the phone, and now if you have the option of streaming the video out And with the Ninja being like, you can record a ProRes, like you can do all the things that you want on a Ninja, but now you don't have to deal with like the extra hard drives. You're just dealing with the storage internal. It's got its own battery.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's a pretty clean solution. And I wonder, and like the phone's going to have better processing power.
Sure.
And so I wonder if having this Ninja phone thing with a dedicated phone is more appealing than a straight up Ninja. Like if I had like a second phone.
No, potentially. I guess that's a big difference, because it's like if you're not going to be getting notifications on this thing while you're filming, or conversely missing calls because you put it in do not disturb. If you had a dedicated device for it, then I think that's a little bit better.
It would be rough in that, like, one, it only works with like the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max, and so now that monitor has become a $2,000 monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you're competing with a $2,000 monitor, that's way, way, way different than just like a Ninja 5 Plus or whatever they're currently on. And also, since it only works for iPhones, for the Ninja one at least, or for the Atmos one, you have to deal with a stupid cutout. And so, like,
that's true.
You don't even get to see the whole thing.
Yeah, well, probably Windows in, be my guess. Like, you use that part for like a status bar or something.
But what if you're shooting in like scope?
Mega, you mean?
No. No one's gonna get that, Daniel. Okay. Do you know FreeFly, the camera company?
Yeah, what they make really high resolution cameras, right?
High speed cameras.
That's what I meant.
And so
high frame rate.
There's like there's a new version of the Ember that came out, and I haven't like dug too much into it, but it can do 2,900 frames per second in 2K.
Huh.
And the exciting thing is it's on EF mount, so you can put your 70 to 200 on there.
Were there old ones on EF mount?
I don't remember.
We'll have to circle back. No, we'll have to circle back to this. But there's something interesting with this camera where they were going to do it. So the original 5K version of the Ember camera had a Sony E-mount.
Okay.
But Sony asked them to not do that.
What?
And so that's why it has EF now.
Interesting.
Yeah. So maybe we'll dig into that at some point in the future.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Okay. Are you familiar with like the G adapter thing for Godox?
I'm not. Tell me more.
Like Godox lights, like you can get one with a Bowen mount, but then like their Pro lights have this G mount thing, which has like smart connector stuff so the light can communicate with the modifier. And they announced this thing called a Beamlight Max 90. And it's
come up with that name themselves?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, keep going.
It is exactly what you think it is. You can beam the light. It's like a spotlight, and they're like, if you need to like shoot, you need a really strong like concentrated beam of light from here to way over there, or you want to like shoot it into a bunch of modifiers, and you need a really strong concentrated light instead of just something that's more dispersed. They have this modifier that you can like slap on top of any of their Pro G compatible Godox lights, and it does like this whole thing.
Cool.
And it's like super, super crazy. And super, super expensive, but also super crazy. They compared it to a bat signal.
Now I'm curious to see, if you can use it that way. Cool though.
Okay, have you seen this Tilta Chronos thing?
I have. It's a phone case, but it has power rails running through it, and so you can just put accessories and like little slots all over this phone case, and they get power and stuff.
Right. And the power doesn't come from the phone. You have to have an accessory that has power. So like you can put a grip on there that has battery in it, and like the grip may have like a wheel to control like a Tilta follow focus that will do the Bluetooth focus into the camera on your iPhone. And they're saying that like they're going to have support for this for like Samsung Galaxies and other Android phones, and they're going to roll it backwards to other iPhones, blah, blah, blah. But right now it's like 15 Pro.
Yeah.
There's like an accessory that's like a fan and a charger. So it's like it connects to the rail, and then it'll like wirelessly charge the phone, but then also be a fan. And they have like a little flap over the camera ND filter thing that you can like flip up and flip down, like those sunglasses that have like the flip up, flip down.
Man.
Yeah. You can put like a handle on both sides. Like, basically, they have like every accessory that you could possibly want for your little phone super rig thing. And you can buy like all the pieces separately. So you can spend like $200 on building this thing out. You can spend like $600 on building it out and get everything.
It's a cool idea. and the engineering behind it's impressive. And it's probably the most capable version of this type of system that you can imagine. But it just feels to me like if you're adding all the stuff onto your phone, should you still be using your phone to film?
Yes, because Daniel, you need something to charge it, to pull focus, to have a light and a microphone and an ND filter. And you're like, are you going to really put all that stuff on your phone? The answer is yes, with the Chronos.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Not quite on board with that.
I think sometimes the phone is the right answer, and this makes it possible.
Okay, if you say so.
It doesn't look like with some of these accessories that you'd be able to use your like screw-on 67 millimeter phone thing, but I guess it's its own rail case.
Yeah, that's a different system.
It's got a USB-C hub.
Well, yeah, because you got to be able to plug in a charger and your
There's
USB-C battery or SSD and all that.
A NATO bracket, a wooden handle.
Oh man,
there's an SSD holder.
It's too much.
No, Daniel, it's not too much.
Way too much.
This is so good.
The only person using this is going to be Apple when they film their commercials, and that's because they have to use the iPhone.
It's an Arca quick release. I don't know why you're not like super on board with this. This looks awesome. These accessories are all fairly cheap too. Like the Arca quick release is only $17.
How much is the overall case? Like the core piece that you need?
I think that the Chronos case is $116.
Yeah, that's the expensive part, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
once you get that, I mean, the rest of it's not as bad.
You can get the full kit, which is I thought I said the Max. Oh no, I said the Pro Max. Yeah, the Ultimate kit for $512.
That's a ultimate price for an ultimate kit.
I feel like it's not that expensive.
Yeah, you seem pretty into it.
This feels totally worth it.
If you had an iPhone 15 Pro Max, you think you get one of these?
No.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Because if I'm going to go through all that effort, I'm just going to record with my actual camera.
Yeah. Well, I bet that'll be cool for some people.
I think there's a place for this, Daniel, and I think it's super duper neat.
Yeah, probably is.
Okay, so there's the new updates to the DJI LiDAR rangefinder thing.
I heard something about this, but I don't know much about it.
And I want to push that to a future show also.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to get into that
There's
yet.
a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, that one's kind of super exciting. And so we'll talk about that more later, even though I thought it would pair really well with the other topic about the chicken camera. But then I didn't immediately go into this topic. Yeah. So we're just gonna push that one to later.
All right. Sounds good.
There's other things on here that I don't know enough about that we might just have to blast through. Okay. Kinfinity announced their new 8K prototype.
That's pretty big news.
Yeah, because the previous one was 6K. And this is like the little 6K box camera. Now.
Pretty reasonably priced for a cinema camera. Or at least the 6K.
Right, yeah, it's like a decently priced little cinema box camera. You know, there was like some give and take on it, but it was like decent. And so like they're rolling out a new OS update thing for the camera, so like more features and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Which like we can get into later. They don't have a price for this thing, but it's basically like 66 frames per second in DCI 8K, which means like you're not going to get, it's not like open gate or whatever. It's like whatever. Anyways, but over 60 frames per second. Same like 14 stops in dynamic range. It's got like 5 SDI ports, like 2 of them are 12G. And so you can have all the outputs. It seems like this is for more than just like, it's for like more than just, oh, here's my camera, right? Maybe I need to run out to like multiple monitors or to a focus puller. So like they're kind of really gearing this towards more than just like a one person thing, or maybe it goes into like more streaming things where you need to run out to multiple locations. Anyways, they're advertising it with EF, LPL, and E-mount, and it's got an internal NVMe drive instead of CF Express because they're trying to quote-unquote save cost on storage.
Huh. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's like basically the gist of it. They're just kind of like teasing us.
Yeah.
It's coming later, no price.
They didn't say when, I assume.
No, later. Probably this year.
Huh.
I feel like they announce these things because I feel like they have to get something out for NAB, even though it's not ready. And I don't know if it helps or hurts the hype. Maybe it helps.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it's just a lot of the stuff at these events feels like vaporware, and it usually isn't. I think most of the time these products do come out, especially if they're from established companies. Like I'm confident Kinfinity will come out with the camera. But yeah, I kind of wonder if they lose a little bit of the hype by not being ready to share all these details up front.
I guess if we totally miss the release, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And if we don't totally miss the release, the answer is no.
I guess so.
We'll see how pumped we are. Maybe you'll be selling your Pixis when that thing comes out.
Get a Confinity 8K.
Gotta go. Yeah, maybe it can shoot. Maybe it'll be able to shoot in H.265.
No, that'd be big news.
Since you're a big H.265 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's this Anya Pinetta Pro monopod that's like a one-hand monopod that will like retract and deploy with one hand.
Oh, kind of like that Tilta one that you wanted with the...
But like, it'll like actually deploy. That one had like the little... You could click on the switch and like move it around. And then like you let go of the foot switch.
No,
and then there was one that was a hydraulic
Yeah,
one.
that's what I was talking about, the hydraulic one.
Yeah, but that's different. That's like you step on the foot switch and then it goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
This is different, but I don't know anything about it.
That's disappointing, Lucas. You'll work on that.
Damn.
It sounds like a monopod version of Potato Jet's thing.
There's like so much stuff at NAB.
There really was.
We haven't gotten all of it.
Yeah.
Rode announced like a interview microphone that's wireless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like a big handheld Price is Right microphone type thing.
There's one of them in here, and I don't know if it's this Shimbal CM5 monitor, or if it was a different one that I totally skipped over. But somebody announced a monitor that's USB-C that connects into your camera, or it has USB-C and HDMI, I guess, and it's intended to control your camera, and it works with like Sony's and Lumix's, and you can do things like adjust white balance and touch to focus and like change all of your settings you normally would do on the back of the camera screen, but on the monitor.
That's pretty cool. I've wanted that.
That is cool. I mean, you're going to need something like that for this Pixis that you get.
I don't know about that.
But need. Does the Blackmagic video monitor do that?
I don't think it does, but the Portkeys ones do.
Do you have to connect those with like USB-C also?
I don't know how that works.
I feel like we'd have to have both.
Yeah. Not sure. Either that or wireless. Those are the two options.
Okay. I haven't gotten everything on this list, but is there anything else that stands out that you want to talk about?
I mean, there probably was other stuff. You know, we already talked about all the Blackmagic things, except for Resolve. We still haven't really gone into detail on the Resolve changes, so I'll have to do that next time. And Premiere. Maybe we can do those in the same episode. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't know. I mean, as always, there's a lot of stuff. You know, definitely some cool advancements. We definitely didn't cover all of it, but I don't know. I mean, so it seems like exciting times to be into camera stuff. So
we didn't get into all of it, and we didn't get very deep into any of it.
No, we sure didn't.
Yeah. So more to come.
Yep.
But not immediately.
Yes.
Because we're going on vacation.
Yes.
Right now. We're leaving from here right now on vacation.
Yep. And we will be back in a few weeks. That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us. And if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter @CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.